Welcome to the Uninhibited, the mental health podcast. I'm Jessica Van Leer, a licensed professional counselor in Arizona. This podcast is about showing up fully without shame, without masks, and without apology. This podcast is for educational purposes only and does not constitute therapy or create a therapeutic relationship. If you are in crisis or need support, please reach out to a licensed provider in your area. Today, we'll be talking about perfectionism, but not the kind that's obvious. We're looking at perfectionism that dresses up like ambition, overachievement, and the desire to do it all. From a trauma-informed perspective, we'll explore how this survival strategy is rooted in shame, fear, and a nervous system that never learned how to reset. Perfectionism isn't always about color-coded planners or the need for spotless kitchens. Sometimes it hides in overworking, people-pleasing, emotional detachment, or even chronic procrastination. It's not a personality flaw. It's often a survival mechanism. There are three primary types of perfectionism: self-oriented, other-oriented, and socially prescribed. Each comes with its own set of invisible burdens. Self-oriented perfectionism might look like brutal self-talk and unattainable standards. Other-oriented perfectionism can lead to control, struggles, and relationships. Socially prescribed perfectionism, the belief that others expect you to be perfect, is closely linked to depression, anxiety, and disconnection. From a trauma-informed lens, perfectionism becomes a mask we wear to protect ourselves. Maybe you grew up with criticism, conditional love, or emotional neglect. In that environment, performing perfectly wasn't about pride, it was about safety. We'll explore how these early coping mechanisms adapt and harden into adult patterns, obsessing over tiny details, avoiding vulnerability, or staying emotionally over responsible. These aren't failures of willpower, they're echoes of a nervous system doing their best to stay connected, loved, and protected. Obsessing over tiny details can be a way to create a sense of control in an unpredictable world. It might look like rereading emails multiple times before sending or spending hours refining something that's already good enough. Underneath this behavior is often fear of rejection, failure, or not being good enough. Avoiding vulnerability can be a perfectionist shield. If we don't open up, we can't be hurt. It show up as deflecting compliments, intellectualizing emotions, or never asking for help. For people who learned that expressing emotion wasn't safe, perfectionism offers protection through detachment. Staying emotionally over-responsible is another adaptive strategy. This might look like constantly checking in on others, anticipating needs before they're voiced, or believing it's your job to fix everything. It often stems from childhood environments where emotional caretaking was necessary for stability or connection. In adulthood, this behavior can lead to burnout and resentment because your worth becomes tangled with how well you manage everyone else's emotions. Western culture glamorizes burnout. Our worth is often measured by our productivity, our busyness, and our ability to never drop the ball. But what happens when this becomes the only way we know how to feel safe or valuable? Strober and Otto showed that socially prescribed perfectionism correlates strongly with distress, including anxiety and depression. For many of us, the grind becomes our default, not because we love working, but because it helps us avoid guilt, shame, or the fear of being seen as less than. We'll unpack how systematic forces, including capitalism, patriarchy, and white supremacy culture, pushes us towards overfunctioning. Marginalized groups often feel pressure to prove their worth through relentless perfection, especially in professional and caregiving roles. Capitalism tells us our value is tied to productivity. When perfectionism becomes a coping mechanism, it's not just personal, it's political. In a system that rewards output over well being, slowing down feels like failure. Workers are expected to be endlessly available, emotionally regulated, and high performing, even under impossible demands. The cost: burnout, self doubt, and chronic disconnection from our own needs. Layers another expectation, particularly on women, to be perfect caretakers, leaders, and professionals, all while being emotionally pleasant and physically polished. The result is a crushing double standard that teaches people to overfunction to avoid criticism or invisibility. White supremacy culture, as defined by Tim Oken and others, upholds perfectionism as a core norm, the belief that there is one right way, that mistakes are personal failures and that urgency must override reflection. This framework disproportionately impacts BIPOC individuals who feel the need to perform perfectionism to gain safety or legitimacy in a predominantly white space. Understanding these forces helps us depersonalize the shame we carry. Your struggle with overworking or hyper responsibility isn't just about you, it's about survival in systems that have demanded more than what's human. From a trauma informed perspective, we ask, what is the cost of rest in your family or culture? Who got called lazy? Who had to overperform to be seen? Healing means naming these forces and slowly reclaiming your right to be fully human. Perfectionism and the nervous system. Perfectionism lives in the body. The need to get it right, to keep moving, to not let anyone down. These patterns are often rooted in dysregulated nervous systems. We feel unsafe, our brains switch into survival mode. The amygdala fires up, cortisol rises, and we enter fight, flight, or freeze. Perfectionism can be a fight response, striving harder to eliminate danger, or it might be freeze, stuck in fear of making the wrong choice, paralyzed by the need to do it right. Polyvagal theory helps us understand how perfectionism ties into chronic sympathetic activation, hypervigilance, or dorsal vagal shutdown, emotional numbness. Hypervigilance might show up as being overly alert, multitasking excessively, or never taking a break. Dorsal shutdown may look like procrastination, self doubt, or a persistent sense of being overwhelmed by decisions. Perfectionism can also emerge from a history of unpredictable environments. If you experienced inconsistent parenting, trauma, or chaos growing up, your nervous system may have learned that staying in control through perfectionism was the easiest option and safest. The nervous system adapted by prioritizing performance, detail, and control as ways to feel secure. What's more, perfectionism often recruits shame as a tool. The inner critic speaks up harshly after mistakes, and this is a misguided attempt to ensure you do better next time. But this only fuels the nervous system's dysregulation and entrenches the cycle. Regulation is foundational. You can't logic your way out of perfectionism. You have to show your body again and again that it's safe to make mistakes, to rest, and to let go. This might include body-based practices like grounding exercises, rhythm-based movements like walking or dancing, breathing practices to downregulate the stress response, or co-regulation through safe, affirming relationships. Over time, the body begins to trust that safety doesn't depend on perfection. You can't logic your way out of perfectionism. You have to show your body again and again that it's safe to make mistakes, to rest, to let go. Childhood templates and internalized scripts. Our perfectionist parts are often the voice of our past. Maybe they echo a parent who only noticed you when you achieved something. Maybe they developed after being the responsible one in a chaotic home. Perfectionism can stem from early environments that linked achievement to love. These childhood scripts might say, if I'm good enough, they won't leave, or if I don't make a mistake, I won't be punished. We'll explore common developmental roots like being parentified, emotionally invalidated, or expected to perform emotionally for others. These experiences can leave behind internalized rules about who we are, who we have to be in order to be safe. Let's break that down. Being parentified. When a child takes on an adult role, like managing a parent's emotions or caring for siblings, teaches that worthiness is tied to usefulness. These children often hear, if I don't hold it all together, everything will fall apart. The belief that they can carry into adulthood as relentless self sacrifice and fear of asking for help. Emotional invalidation, where feelings were dismissed or minimalized, sends the message that emotional needs are dangerous or unwelcome. A child in this environment might become hyper independent or perfectionistic to avoid being too much for others. They internalize that expressing needs leads to rejection, so they strive instead to be flawless. Being expected to perform emotionally, like being the happy one, the fixer, or the peacemaker, teaches that love is conditional on emotional labor. These children often become adults who smile through pain, suppress their own needs, and feel shame when they can't keep everyone else okay. In a trauma informed framework, healing means getting to know the parts of you that carry these scripts. Through practices like IFS or inner child work, we can start to untangle those roles and offer those younger parts the safety and permission they never had. Sometimes doing is how we avoid feeling. If you've ever kept yourself busy to escape sadness, silence, or self-doubt, you know this intimately. Productivity can be a trauma response, an attempt to control what feels uncontrollable, to manage anxiety through achievement. But chronic overdoing keeps the nervous system on high alert. It says, I'm only safe if I'm useful. We'll explore how to notice this pattern in your life, the urgency to overdeliver, the fear of rest, the guilt of doing nothing. We'll also share micro practices for slowing down and building tolerance for discomfort. True healing doesn't require stopping everything, but it does require curiosity, pacing, and deep compassion. Start by observing when the impulse to stay busy arises. Is that after an uncomfortable conversation? When you're alone with your thoughts? Often, these moments signal deeper emotional material surfacing: sadness, grief, fear, that perfection helps keep at bay. Noticing the timing can give you powerful cues about what you're trying to protect. Next, consider the emotional cost of constantly doing. Does it leave you exhausted, resentful, or disconnected from yourself or others? These feelings aren't signs of failure. They're signs from your body that you're overextended. Tuning into these signals without judgment is the first step towards honoring your limits. Then experiment with small pauses, not drastic changes, but simple shifts. Say no to a task you would normally say yes to. Take a 5-minute break without reaching for your phone, or completing something at 80% effort instead of 100. These micro moments help retrain your nervous system to tolerate stillness and imperfection. When guilt shows up, as it likely will, meet it with compassion. Remind yourself you're not lazy or selfish for resting, you're healing. Over time, as your body learns that safety isn't tied to performance, those moments of rest will feel less threatening and more like home. The most healing experiences for perfectionism is a moment where we get to be imperfect and nothing bad happens. These reparative experiences rewire the nervous system by offering evidence that mistakes don't equate danger. Maybe it's turning in something late and receiving understanding. Maybe it's sharing something vulnerable and being met with empathy. These small moments can become new relational templates, ones that say, I can be flawed and still be loved. Healing perfectionism isn't about giving up on growth, it's about shifting your goalpost from perfection to presence, from proving to belonging. We'll talk about how to welcome joy, play, and rest as valid, necessary parts of life. I'll offer examples of boundaries, reparenting rituals, and nervous system friendly habits that remind us we're already enough. For boundaries, this might look like setting a firm end time for your workday, even if the task isn't perfectly done. Or it could mean telling someone, I can't take that on right now, without over explaining. Reparenting rituals might include daily affirmations that validate effort over outcome, creating evening routines that offer comfort and care to the parts of you that learned they had to earn rest. Nervous system friendly habits could include a morning body scan, scheduled movement breaks, or reaching out to a trusted friend when you feel the pressure to be flawless creeping in. These practices help restore safety to your system so that you can show up with enoughness instead of overdrive. Let's close with reflection and a grounding practice. Some reflection prompts for this week. What parts of me believe that I needed to be perfect to be safe? When did I learn that rest is risky? What would change if I believed I'm enough right now? A few grounding practices are: inhale deeply for 4 counts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Place your hand over your heart and feel the warmth. Name 3 ways you've shown up today with courage or care. Remember, healing from perfectionism is a process of remembering your worth, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. This week on The Uninhibited, we'll explore perinatal mental health issues, how pregnancy, postpartum, and fertility struggles affect emotional well-being, and how to support healing through a trauma-informed lens. Until next time, take a breath and stay uninhibited.